you accept.
Here needs to be.
I accept. So I'm sure it's-
All right, folks, at this time, I'd like to call the June 16, 2022 regular meeting of the Common Council City Class for order. It's 5 p.m. Will you please rise and join me with the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barrett, will you please conduct a roll call? Sorry? Here.
Counselor Now,
Here.
Counselor Kelly,
Here.
Counselor Gibbs.
Here.
Counselor Talon.
Here.
Counselor Bach. Here. Counselor Moore.
Here.
All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the June 2nd, 2022 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll now entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented. Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bach. Any changes, deletions, alterations? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Minutes are accepted. I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the council on any topic. Please come to the podium to be acknowledged. When called upon, we ask that you please state your legal name and address for the record. In accordance with the organizational rules of order, all speakers will be given 5 minutes to address the council.
Good evening. My name is Julie Bond. I live at 49 Main Mill Street. I am standing here tonight very sad and very confused. Until this past Monday night, when Mayor Rosenquist pointed out that the improvements promised 2 years ago were in limbo until it was clear how well the market was received in the new location, was to say the least confusing. Considering the market had little to no choice when the city moved us down there, I'm further confused because that was never talked about when working on the project with Mr. Miller. This market has been a part of the community for over 20 years, so really that should not matter. I was a very strong advocate for the move, convincing our vendors and our customers it would be great to move. I still think that having a much-used kids area and on grass and not tarmac is wonderful. And not having to ask my husband to carry the picnic tables out every week is a shoulder saver. So being upfront with me about these conditions would have been welcomed. When the issue of safety was brought up about Green Street's narrowness, the solution was to make it one way. Just on the Saturdays, the market was open. So signs were made and sawhorses were dropped off. When I asked who was putting them out, I was told we were, because our rent was so inexpensive. So my 53-year-old husband and the 60-year-old manager puts them up and takes them down every week. And none of the other vendors are willing to do it. So don't suggest that. I am wondering if the other small events that are not run by the city put their own barricades up. It's just a thought. The market is a much-loved community event. We have never asked for things to be done that are trivial. We put our own signs on the building. We planted flowers and we decorate for holidays. The lawn gets mowed, but my husband does the trim, none of which we mind doing because we love the market. It should not be a factor if we succeed or not. If the improvements are not completed, then yes, we won't, because vendors and customers won't want to go there. I know that's not what you guys want. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the council on any topic?
I'm Tim Kalvik from 21 Champlain Street. I just want to speak again about parking. I think there's no reason to rush to a decision to have metered parking. The challenge to the judge's decision about crime will go through either the court system or the committee system, and it will take probably 2 years, meaning 2 summers before parking has to be initiated. There's no rush to make a decision on a potentially dangerous and unhappy decision for the city. Delay is a good policy in this case. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Anyone else would like to speak to council on any topic?
Jennifer Boyer,
Jen.
we're entire 13 Broad Street. I spoke in May. I was really nervous because I didn't know what to do, but I'm not very nervous today because there's not much to say. I just want to say that I highly disagree with the paid parking for employees. I know some of you think it's a good idea, and I know some of you think it's on the fence whether you think it's a good idea. I can tell you from my perspective that we've been in business at our location for 35 years. We've paid close to $28,000 in parking taxes since we've been there. And we pay our taxes every year for the parking. And you are going to put a tremendous stress on not only our business, but other businesses in getting recruits, people who want to be employed there, because we're not going to be able to say, oh, I'm sorry, you have to pay for parking because we don't know if you're going to last here. We don't know if this is going to work out, and we don't know what's going to happen. We also are going to have to pay for 25 people to be parking here on a regular basis, which is going to cost us approximately 25 to 30 people on a regular basis, which is going to cost us approximately $5,000 a year on top of the tax that we already pay. So I just want to say that there's really not, like I said, there's a vote and I don't have much control over it, but I do as a business owner feel that what you're doing is really, really sad for the employees that work in the downtown area and the employers that work in the downtown area. There's a lot of people that this is going to affect, and there's a lot of businesses that, not mine, because we don't have the luxury of moving our business out of this location. We have buildings here, we own property here, we can't do that. But there's places here that are going to move their businesses. They're gonna up and leave. They're gonna do that because they don't want to deal with this. And I feel sorry for the older and elderly people who aren't going to come downtown for lunch anymore because they're not going to want to deal with kiosks or try to figure any of that out. I feel bad for the people who come downtown during the day and just aren't going to deal with it. And I wish that you guys would reconsider and do this a different way that would benefit the employers and the employees that work in the downtown area.
Anyone else would like to speak to the council on any topic? All right, we'll now go on to committee reports. Each standing committee is chaired by a council, and I will now call upon that chairperson of each committee, starting with city operations, Councilor Bob.
But tonight you were gonna do that since I was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
We had, I apologize. We had a committee meeting on Monday. There are several items on the agenda tonight for approval by the council. One of which, one is the beer garden, and then we also reviewed the Sylvia's monthly report as well as overview of the IT operations. There's a couple of musical contracts to also be approved for tonight's agenda as well. Financing and economic development, we had our meeting on Thursday, I believe, Thursday, and we covered a number of topics from reports. Let's see, there are a number of capital project revisions, as well as the approval of the parking fee structure. City Infrastructure Council.
Well, we had our meeting a week ago and we moved several items to the agenda tonight to be voted on. That's all I have. Hold on.
We'll now move on to liaison report. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Tang.
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department, Councilor Gibbs.
I don't have any updates, but I just wanted to remind everybody that our next meeting is June 30th, which is in 2 weeks.
Dean, do you have any staff member reports? No reports. I'll note on tonight's agenda, the traffic order establishing traffic zone designation numbers 975 is on the agenda. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the payrolls of various city departments for the weeks ending June 15, 2022 in the amount of $499.1144. Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Talon,
Yes.
Counselor Bob,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes,
I'll now entertain a motion to approve the bills audited by common council for the weeks ending June 17th, 2022 in the amount of $1,568,855.96. Motion by Counselor Bob, second, Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales,
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Talon,
Yes.
Counselor Bob,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
yes,
Carried. Before voting on the following resolutions, I'll note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the respective committees and department heads. We are now taking action on these items in large part due to the recommendations of those committees. Ms. Carlin, would you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
motion to remove resolution 7.115 from the table.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second, Counselor Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.115, authorize training step adjustment CDO director.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second, Counselor Kelly. Discussion.
Well, we had some discussion about this. Raises in the middle of a financial year, I can't support. Our budget, speaking from my perspective, I think our budget should be treated as, for lack of a better word, like gospel. Meaning it shouldn't be touched. Middle of the year, I don't agree with making those kinds of changes. I think that a request such as a pay raise should come at budget time. I think that our CDO director does a fantastic job. But I think this is something that should be considered at budget time, not middle of the year.
could I make a motion at this time to move this, withdraw it from the agenda?
I would second that motion.
Motion on the table to withdraw, second. Second, Counselor Canales. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.121, mayoral appointment.
Motion. Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
7.122, authorize mayor to sign letter of approval, request from DHSN to establish crisis residence, 126 Court Street.
Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Gibbs. Discussion.
I mean, I read the letter.
Sure.
Can you give us a little more than what was
Yeah,
provided to
so
us?
this is a crisis residence that was already established, which was already established in operation before the pandemic. Pandemic came, it was closed, unfortunately, but now they're looking to reinstate it, and they need the approval of the host municipality, an active approval from the host municipality. If short of an active approval, they can wait 40 days, and I believe, Dean can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would automatically be approved. So rather than wait the 40 days, fast forward it, get it up and running now.
Is there, I didn't know this even existed. Is there there must be a demand. I would assume there must be a demand. Yes. Okay.
And it goes in line with a lot of the work that we're doing with crisis intervention, mental health response from public safety, partnerships that we're creating between our police departments and mental health providers like the county mental health and addiction and DHSN. So the more we have of these, the better. And it is in very high demand.
Yeah, I didn't know that this existed until I saw this on the agenda for tonight.
That place was previously open, wasn't it?
Correct. It was previously open, as I noted, it was open in operation, in full operation. But when the pandemic hit, they closed due to constraints. And they're looking to reopen it.
Coming from a mental health perspective, I can't stress enough the importance of reopening these places. It's been really hard throughout the pandemic with the closures and with the limited access to beds and psychiatric treatment. So I'm really happy to see this coming back.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.123, award bid for contract WRRF 2022-05 hauling sludge for the water resource recovery facility.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Pop, discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
No,
No.
no,
Carried, one in the negative.
Item 7.24, authorizing range and step adjustment, chief water treatment plant operator.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Pop, discussion.
I just want to say I feel the same way about this as I do the other. I realize it is budget neutral. But it isn't really budget neutral. I mean, I realize we're not zapping out of general fund to do this, but I just don't want us to set precedent where we are making raises in the middle of a budget year.
Yeah, I agree. As I said before, I'm really amenable to this, but just not at this time. I'd like to see it come up budget time.
For me, the way that I'm looking at this is, it's an adjustment, it's not a raise, and it's a technical expertise as well.
Excuse me.
So
I feel the same as the other two councilors. I don't think we should be dealing with these kind of things except at budget time.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a budget, we did not budget for this. We're only 4 or 5 months away from another budget. I don't see any reason why we couldn't take it at the time. It's not an emergency. so.
Do you want to vote? Do you want to withdraw? What do you want to do? We withdrew the other one.
Well, I would think we would be inconsistent, we would withdraw that and take it up. I don't see any reason where this is a bad thing. I think it should be looked at. Didn't look at it at last budget, but like I said, only a few months away from another budget, so we can deal with it at that time.
if possible, I'd like Mr. Rupp to come and talk about it if he can.
We would do that in executive session.
Okay.
It'd be more appropriate to do that in executive session.
Would you like to ask for an executive session?
Yeah, I'd like there to be an executive session. for this.
We can make a motion to executive session. Motion, Counselor Canales, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Executive session.
So as you go down and deep, it's like clay is holding the pipe together. So it's like a small. Yeah. We have our grading, so, but you were just kind of slowly, so you move the soil along.
It's funny, but it's not.
Yeah.
Usually my second term, you go to the That's not turned off. Yeah. You're open to people at times.
So we pay, so that's why I said that, that over the last 35 years, we paid between 25 and Depending on the year.
The guy named Burger drove through the 14. It took us like 35 minutes to shut off. It wasn't my fault. And I remember. Just like it was literally this much more. I think it's. You're helping us. Yeah. We know that you bring a chance, it takes. We've got the 24 set on now. Yeah. So that. Yeah. So they hit me. Oh, when the house fell in? Yeah. Yes. Actually, on Oak Street. When we were doing yeah, Jason had like full and he didn't touch me. It's locked, all water all the time. Still pretty fresh.
Yeah. Actually, yes.
contract.
Yeah.
You want to stop by tomorrow? Show you. I'll go over it. and see. Oh. Oh, yeah. And also the transmission.
So.
Yeah. He might have done it. The one, I think it's the bridge. Yeah, that's just a couple. Yeah. So you.
And so now.
So actually, if you get 5 minutes.
So he, so he said, so we're gonna go.
Yes, between 6 and 7.
Yeah.
So.
No. You're telling me. It was around this morning. By the way, you're standing.
So anyway, so that's why.
I didn't think about it. That sounds like Bill.
Yeah.
So what do you? Yes. Because the state comes involved and has to apply for value. So they're. Yeah. They're like. Yeah.
We don't want to.
Actually, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
This. Most, I do too. Not that. Yeah. Deer flies. Yeah. All allergic to those, like, yes. They start smoking.
Where's he staying? Yeah. Oh, in the house, that's,
So. last year, Yeah, no, it's funny because they've got. Hey, what's wrong?
Just say.
I make a motion to exit executive session. We made no decision during that time. Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
We're now out of executive session. Item 7.124 is on the.
Motion to remove this one.
We'll make a motion to withdraw. Motion second by Counselor Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I don't even know I'm doing that. That makes no difference. Motion withdrawn. Thank you.
Item 7.125, approval of 2022 beer garden for the city of Plattsburgh.
Motion, Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Rob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.126, Plattsburgh to enter into contractual agreement with Katie Duravash, for Fourth of celebration.
Motion by Counselor Talon, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Rob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.127, approval for city of Plattsburgh to enter into contractual agreement with musical performers for Lake City Arts Festival.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.128, authorizing revising capital project 5110.83, 2022 equipment purchase.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bach, discussion. Roll call.
well, I just
Oh,
have
sorry.
one question, on two electric vehicles, are those gonna be planned to be bonded?
Where those were coming out of, those were coming out of MLB? No, those are, oh, yeah, I apologize. What departments are those for?
Building inspector.
Okay, bonded or general fund expenditure?
General fund advance, I paid for them initially and put them in, for the bond for
How long is that bond for,
$415,000.
or going to be for?
$415,334 is the bond piece of this particular capital project.
Amortized
For
over,
how-
That's what the bond resolution says. The vehicles themselves should be 3 years.
bonded 3 years, in that,
Yeah, when you have a serial bond issued like this. with
Yep.
different Assets. and
Yep.
different Lives, specific lives for each asset. is considered as part of the
Okay.
bond. So if the vehicle is covered for 3 years, if there's 10-year vehicles, it goes 10 years.
Okay, yeah, because I just read something about electric vehicles, like when they're used up their existing life, they're worthless because the battery is no more good. Whereas regular vehicle could last a long time.
oh. I'm
So,
Usually the city vehicles.
okay, so it's gonna be, it's only gonna be bonded for 3 years on this. It would be paid for before the end of its useful life.
Apparently they explode all the time too, so.
Okay, thanks. That was the question.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.129, establishment of management policies and fees for the downtown area parking system.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bach, discussion.
So the ongoing discussion of the fees.
Yep.
I'm still getting emails and phone calls. I don't know if anyone else is. I had a very lengthy email from a constituent. Doing some financial comparisons, about what businesses were paying for special assessment district fees versus what they're gonna have to pay under the parking system. I've been a supporter of paid parking from the beginning, but I do stand on what I said. I think it was a finance meeting a month or maybe 2 ago. I was in favor of the parking system before I knew we were gonna tear up downtown, before we purchased 18 kiosks. I still am in favor of a paid parking system, but when I hear downtown business owners putting it into their own perspective about what it's going to cost them, this is what's giving me the heartburn. And I support paid parking. I don't know if I can support this fee structure. And I just want to be on record for that. And for those reasons, because it's the reasons that you have shared and other business owners have come to me either by phone or by email, like I said, to share similar concerns. And I just have to be on record regarding how I feel about that.
Any further discussion?
I just
Excuse
wanted to
me,
say,
I'm sorry.
as far as comparative prices, I recently had reason to look into private parking in the city with like a private provider, and it was $500 a month annually for a spot there. So the $170 a month annually does represent a significant reduction in what you pay for private parking. I also, Matt, I really appreciate that Matt came back and brought these down for this year so that we can look at gradually bringing in the fees. I think that's really great. I appreciate your work on that. So I just wanted to make that point.
Further
Yeah.
discussion?
The fees have been pretty much cut in half, so that is different from what was proposed before. So I don't know if you know that now, but that's definitely a step in the right direction. And there are ways, I was saying this at our last meeting, just if people park 2 o'clock, then, they're pretty much set. They won't have to pay. And Saturdays and Sundays are free, holidays are free. So there are ways to figure out how to park in downtown Plattsburgh.
Well, I just wanted to comment that I've had a lot of opinions on this, both solicited and unsolicited. And, well, I don't know, I'm not sure that we've got it right at this point. I like Councilor Gibbs, he was for the parking right from the get-go, but I'm getting a lot of opinions from people in the city, and I'm not sure I'm entirely behind this part of the project. I think there's still some work to be done on that, but I realize time is running out, but having this good news, I guess.
Further discussion? I will say this, that this is, it's new, it's challenging. I don't compare myself to a 30-person employees. I don't have 30 employees, I've got 5, which we are paying for their parking permits, their annual permits. I think one of the most valid arguments that I've personally heard in this is the amount that's being paid into the SAD by businesses. I should say building owners, my building owner pays into the SAD, but I'm not going to get the benefit of reducing the amount when I pay for my permit, my employees' permits. I also want to keep this a bit separate, but as an example, just as an example. I do understand the concern. The system is flexible, and I think we should maintain that flexibility. I don't think it's as hard and fast, it's not set in stone. And nor should we operate, nor have we operated if we follow this conversation and discussion from when it started. We haven't had conversations that were set in stone. We've always been flexible. We've heard feedback. Facebook. And I don't know why, Councilor Gibbs, I don't know why. But I'll tell you that we hear a lot of that feedback, and look, I'm flexible. I see some of it's valid and some of it's just people, doing people stuff. I will say that I think that this council and certainly my office will continue to ensure that the system's fair, that if by chance we start reaping in millions of dollars in parking, which I don't think that'll ever happen, then we figure out a way to, obviously give back. And that's was the whole point of this, is giving back, is generating enough money to eliminate the special assessment district fee, as well as invest any overages or profits back into downtown. And even and to that point, and I have gone on record, I've said this publicly, I've said this in this council chambers, I've said it on the radio and in the media, that we should even look at the amount that special assessment district fee payers are paying to purchase their permits and then reduce their special assessment district fee by that amount. So they're not paying both a special assessment district fee and permits for their employees. And I think that's fair. And again, that's part of the system. We can work this out. Again, I think we are flexible in that sense, and we remain flexible and open-minded in that sense.
Well, and just to piggyback off one of the things you said, one of the points you made is that eventually, if there is ever any profit or excess, it will go back into downtown. And one of the things I've heard as long as I've lived here is that people want improvements downtown. They want things to be better downtown. We need to create revenue. There has to be revenue in order to do that. And as much as businesses might be concerned about this parking, a decrepit downtown should also be a major concern. So somewhere in the middle, we have to find a balance. And I do think that Matt did a great job in working towards that with this proposal.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Canales?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
No.
Councilor Talon?
Yes.
Councilor Bach?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
No,
Carried.
Item 7.130, authorizing revising capital fund page 5110.87, 2022 downtown improvement.
Motion, Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bach. Discussion. Roll call.
Which one is this?
Farmers market improvements.
Oh, the farmer's market. Okay. Okay. great.
Yep, roll call.
Councilor Canales?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs,
Yes.
Council Talon,
Yes.
Council Bob,
Yes.
Council Moore,
Yes.
Carried.
item 7.131, award of low bid for farmer's market improvements.
Motion. Counselor Bott, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales,
Yes.
Council Kelly,
Yes.
Council Gibbs,
Yes.
Council Talon,
Yes.
Council Bob,
Yes.
Council Moore,
Yes.
item
Carried.
7.132, approval of artwork display renewal for
Motion by Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bott. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales,
Yes.
Council Kelly,
Yes.
Council Gibbs,
Yes.
Council Talon,
Yes.
Council Bob,
Yes.
Council Moore,
Yes.
Carried.
item 7.133, adoption of revised five-year plan 2023 to 2028.
Motion. Counselor Bott, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales,
Yes.
Council Kelly,
Yes.
Council Gibbs,
Yes.
Council Talon,
Yes.
Council Bob,
Yes.
Council Moore,
Yes.
Carried. There is no motion to go into executive session. Is there any new business that can be before this council?
Yeah, I wanted to, which isn't really new, it's new business because it's new business to the agenda, but it's something that we've discussed last year. Last year, we talked about looking into making Green Street safer, putting sidewalk there, making some kind of permanent fix, possibly moving pole. I mean, these are things that we talked about last year, but nothing ever came to a conclusion. Is that something that we are going to revisit this year? About making it permanently one way, putting in a permanent sidewalk, making it pedestrian
sure.
friendly? Is that something we're going to
Yeah.
pursue this
So,
year?
you know what, I think it's warranted to push this back to the infrastructure improvement, but to address your immediate concern. We had a conversation about this. There were a number of proposals to actually create a study after the initial proposal was to just tear a building down. Following that, there was a proposal to do a study as part of maybe the Harborside Master Plan, and I think there's some work to be done for the Saranac River Trail Phase 3 that goes down Green Street. But my recollection is that the council decided not to do that study. And I don't recall after the fact what happened.
So we decided not to do this, not to pay for a study because we were hoping that department heads, Mr. Ruff and Mr. Tracy, Mr. Bissett would come up with some, and John did that. He came up with some plans of his, basically working in collaboration with these guys to come up with some options to fix that as a, permanently fix the issue there, the stoplight, the Green Street itself is in terrible shape. And then that was, we didn't move forward any farther.
But again, when it comes to city business, we don't have an engineer to do this work. We need to hire this work out like we do every street improvement, every streetscape improvement and engineering design for street. So as much as we can sit around and kind of think like this is a good idea, it still requires study, it still requires engineering and design to then say, hey, these are the options that we have for this roadway, as narrow as it is, but this is the option for that roadway. I was more than willing and still happy to advocate for a proper engineering and design study to be done in that area for a number of reasons, not just because Green Street is this small, but because there's all these streets that kind of like intersect there very oddly.
Yeah, it's a very wobbly little intersection
Exactly.
there.
So again, I'm more than happy to push a study, engineering design study back to infrastructure for discussion and approval so that we can actually have something tangible for Green Street. Considering that it is now, if I hope that most folks here will attend the Harborside Master Plan Advisory Committee coming up, I think this week or next week. Thank you.
When is it?
24th.
When?
24th?
That's a Friday.
It is a Friday.
So when on?
10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
It'll be recorded.
Okay.
It'll be recorded, and I'll make sure that the council gets it if it cannot attend. But again, we're talking about enhancing and improving Harborside. And right now, the only access to Harborside is Green Street and Dock Street, which are not really amenable to ease of access. You can also walk there via the bridge, but still it's kind of moot when it comes to talking about redesigning Green Street. Yes, sir.
when the second phase of the Saranac River Trail was completed, that also included improvements to Pine Street, which runs alongside the trail.
That's right.
Could we expect the same with the Green Street portion of the trail?
Yeah, so as a reminder, no, Saranac River Trail Phase 3 has been kind of in the ether a little bit, but if you recall, the River Trail, Saranac River Trail Phase 3 would start right at the bridge, Veterans Bridge, where the River Walk is intended to end, and then go down, up Bridge Street, down Bridge Street, east on Bridge Street, onto Green Street, and have that be part of the river trail down to the trail system down there, down to Peace Point Park, and that would be the termination of the river trail. So I would hope that a portion of those funding and that discussion would be a redesign or some type of safety infrastructure or improvement infrastructure for biking in that general area. But again, as we know, that if we have 20 feet of roadway and that's all we got to work with, we got to figure something out. And it may or may not be a one-way street. I guess it just depends. It certainly is not going to be a two-way street with two sidewalks and bike lanes. They ain't enough room down there. So I think the appropriate thing would be to maybe even have a conversation with Matt Miller about the river trail Phase 3, what the scope of that is, if that does include some design elements to, or could include some design elements into Green Street, and then build that into the project moving forward.
So this is a very inconclusive conversation. Are we going to have a conversation? Is the council interested in moving forward?
Do you want to pay for it this time? That's the only question that.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
that's the
John Ross
question
came
we
to
pay
us
for.
with a, like a menu of things that we could do. And I understand what you're saying about paying for the engineer to,
Yes.
or an engineer. And I think where we left it in council last year is we were hoping for proposed solution that would not cost, how do I say this? We don't want to spend a lot of extra money, especially since we have two very large infrastructure projects that don't, like you said, we're still waiting to hear if we're going to get some federal funding to pay for that emergency out on the base. Is the council interested in having this discussion at our next council meeting, or go to the infrastructure committee? I just taking the temperature of the room. I don't
I
know.
definitely like to see it discussed in infrastructure for sure.
To come up with a discussion of what we want, what would be feasible,
What's needed is an engineer study. Let's do it.
I think we should have a full discussion of it, of what that's gonna look like.
Sure.
And if we're deciding to move forward, what kind of, financial commitment, like, I think it warrants a conversation, not necessarily we're gonna send it to resolution, yes, we're gonna spend this money, but let's get, John and Mike, and Matt, and put together a presentation for it. I don't know. There has been some work done on it. I would like to see us make a decision about what we're gonna do about
Yeah,
it,
I
because I
mean,
think it's lingered long enough.
Again, Councilor Gibbs and the rest of the council, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this was brought up a long time ago,
May of last year.
and then
Right.
it was told, we're not gonna do anything with it, we're just gonna leave it, when it was brought up that we need something done with Green Street. An intentional plan, design engineered, moving forward with how to make Green Street safer, and it was a lot because we saw what was going on down there, and that we knew that Harborside is gonna be the gateway to downtown waterfront, and we're gonna make a lot of improvements with the Harborside master plan. So, I mean, I don't wanna come off sounding frustrated, but it is a conversation that got squashed last year.
Well, part of the reason it got squashed is
Yeah.
because there was gonna be a significant cost involved, and if we could have the conversation where.
Well, it's
there would-
infrastructure. It's gonna be huge anyway you look at it. We don't have a city engineer, so it's gonna cost over $1 billion.
Depending on
I would
what
say,
we decide,
okay, here-
yeah.
Here's what I would say, so that we can wrap this up and push it to the appropriate committees, that we'll have Mike, John, Matt come together with some type of proposal, as well as some historical information on where we've been and where we're gonna be potentially with some of these other projects that are going on down there. And then we can have a conversation for potentially what's next.
Okay.
Okay,
I would like
appreciate
that.
it. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the the idea of that project being pushed back up to the top, because we all know that Green Street's a problem. Any further business, any new business? Seeing none, I will now take a motion to adjourn. Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Gibbs, all in favor? We now adjourn. Thanks, folks.
For this tornado that's.